I really, after playing the last couple of days, I've got to realize maybe it's just not a good idea to keep testing and still stay in the 90s and then say, yeah, this is a good looking deck. It works great. Go down to 90. No. All right, go back to what works. Go back up to 93. Oh, okay, I can test again. Back down to 90. Damn it.
That's what Proving Grounds is for, man. You gotta go test over there.
But they're different. They're different. All right, if you're good, sir, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good, man.
All right, you know the drill. We let in the music and then we say, welcome on into the Snap Back podcast, where you snap and we snap back. For those who do not know, my name is Guest, also known as ItsGuestGaming, and as always, joined with my partner in crime here, Mr. Default Dan. Where the hell have we been?
Oh man, we've had so much going on. Just craziness. School's going back with the kids, which has killed like our super early morning stuff, and then of course, just so much going on. So much.
I know, between life and events and, like you said, the back to school, both of our lives now are in a different routine officially because all of the little ones go back to school, and that just changes our recording schedule tremendously, both for live streams as well as early morning content. So we'd like to say we're back to a routine, but then we have SnapCon next week, and then it just all goes into the shitter anyway. But we are instead.
I was just saying, this Monday was even crazier because we had the tournament, which we'll be talking about later, on Sunday rather than a Saturday. So waking up,
oh my gosh,
waking up on a Monday morning and then being there, just
no. It was just we were.
Didn't happen.
We haven't found thine groove, but we are reestablishing the groove. So that way us and the Emperor are very happy. But now we're back into a routine again, ideally kind of sort of, it's going to be interesting with travel over the next couple of weeks. I'm coming up there for SnapCon, so I'll be hanging out for the week in Florida. And then afterwards, I'm traveling to New York for a week. So I'm actually going to be taking a week off of streaming, but I'll still be working on content for Snap.fan every now and then, getting out new articles. We just hired a whole bunch of writers. So I'm really excited to see all of that new content get pushed on out. So I'm in the edit mode a little bit more so. So by the time this recording comes on out, we may actually have our first new writer article immediately dropping, which will be fantastic. So We'll see. But yeah, I'm excited to catch up with you because we got some things that we want to revisit because we started to visit it on Monday night. And then, we recorded the podcast, sort of, right?
Yeah.
Sort of, because everything was just all together, including the background music from the stream.
Yeah,
it was just
not right. No, that was my fault. My fault again with the button clicks and all the stuff. But
I know it was your fault. I mean, I wasn't going to say it. I was just going to say it happens, and just whatever. But sure, we can blame you. That's fine. But so we couldn't use it for the podcast. So we appreciate the hiatus for those who are on our audio or video listeners and watchers. We appreciate your patience, but we are back and we're going to talk about Lady Deathstrike. We're going to talk about the OTAs, the upcoming card X23, SnapCon tournaments, all the above, because we have a lot to catch up on. But
absolutely,
I think one of the interesting hot topics we're going to open right now with, which is Lady Deathstrike, who many people were excited for, and then they played her.
Yeah.
Just it's I wanted this to be so much better.
I think the hard part was like a long time ago when she was first kind of spoiled, right? When she was first spoiled from the data mines and stuff like that. I looked there and I said, why? I was like, this card just doesn't look great. Shang-Chi's just a million times better, right? Because Shang-Chi makes sure you hit the big cards, which matter, rather than the small cards, which don't really matter. But then everybody started to convince me prior to her dropping that maybe she is good. Maybe we can do more with her. She can take out cards that are harder for Shang-Chi to hit, like your Iron Mans, you had brought it up on Monday, your Draculas, the cards that can be annoying to finish off games. And then we started playing, and nobody plays Iron Man. Nobody plays Dracula at the moment. Like, the cards that were annoying 2 months ago. I mean, he's every now and then, but like you see him.
Dracula's the number one performing deck. Number one performing deck in the game right now in both game modes.
I don't ever see them. I would say 1 in maybe 15 matches I see a Dracula, which I don't know. But I mean, I guess the question is, have you played her? What have you found outside of the fact that most of us kind of are meh on her? But I mean, have you found her decent or actually killing that Dracula that maybe you see more than I do?
Yeah. Well, for me, it just hurts differently because it took all 4 spotlights to unlock her.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
That's almost worse than spending 6,000 tokens on her. Almost. Because I ended up with what I'm calling buttered toast Modoc in exchange in the process.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, even that variant, I'm like, really? This is what I get stuck with? It's my only Modoc variant. I don't even have Taco Bell Pixel, which I would take any day of the week. But Lady Deathstrike herself, the only shell I found her decent in was Cerebro 3. So that way the ongoing was there. I wasn't playing any kind of like Shuri package or Forge package, or I wasn't going down that pipeline. It was more just let me automatically have it via getting Cerebro down on 3. If I had Mystique, that's great. Because even getting her up to 5 power makes a tremendous difference, yet alone if you can get her to 7 earlier on.
Yeah.
Definitely makes an absolutely huge difference, and she can annihilate lanes then in that point. But up until then, it's not really that strong of a card. And we've talked about it back and forth, you know, back on Monday or even past that. Now that we've had the experience with her, I think the issue for me with Lady Deathstrike is that she's a 5 cost. It's not the 3 power. I think if she was an option for death earlier on, like at a 4 cost, Zabu or not, it doesn't matter, because more often than not, you're looking to play her kind of a card earlier, so you know what your ramping death is if you're playing it on a destroy line. Then if it's a turn 6 synergy play, then you're still looking at something strong if you are looking in the Cerebro line, because then you can still drop a 2-drop plus Lady Deathstrike, versus right now where you're almost limited to just Blade or 0. And that's it. And it just, she's really great effect, awful power and cost combination.
Yeah.
I don't mind her being a 3 power, just not at 5 cost.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you on that. I think if she was a 4, she'd be more viable. So if we look at like the destroy cards, right? You have Carnage at 2, you have Venom, Deathstroke at 4 or 3.
3, 5.
Right. And so like you need something at 4, because 5, chances are what you're hitting in a lane, right? Because it is of less value. So it's kind of one of those things that 5, she needs to be 4 power so that you can hit 3s. There's a lot of really great 3s to hit. There's not a lot of really great 2s to hit on turn 5 that are going to matter, right? Because at that point, what are you hitting? You're killing like a Zabu to mess with their maybe turn 6, which they've already played 2 big 4 drops, you know, prior to that. So it's definitely one of those where she's got to be pumped. She's got to have like, and I went the reverse route that you did. I went into that. Let me get Christmas Land. Let me get Zabu into Wong, into Shuri, into Deathstrike, into Zola, right? And like that would be Christmas Land. And even when it's like that, it's still not amazing. You're still not putting a lot of power into lanes if they're playing big cards, because that's still only doubling twice, which is a 12, right? So there's things that survive a 12 power, you know, destroy, and then having 12 in the lane, you know, a Hulk beats you, Infinite beats you, even Destroyer beats you on that turn 6.
Death.
Yeah. So
Death.
So you've done all these things, and it's, you know, rough. Now I will say, and we do have the article up, just on some decks and stuff. And again, big shout out for the articles over on snap.fan, because it has tons of different decks in here from different creators. We've got YouTube videos, you know, supporting those decks if you want to know how to play them. But the one, you know, that I've kind of kept leaning to if I was going to play her a bunch, right? And I don't. Like, I played her the first night, maybe into the second day a little bit, and that's been about it, because I just feel like there's better decks. But Cozy has one here called Lady Negative, and this was another one we tried the first night. Not this specific deck, but just a negative version, because if you can negative her and get her to that 5 power, meaning she's gonna, kill 4 powers. Mine was slightly different because I also had Wong in here, because when you switch Wong and you switch Shuri, you can get some like ridiculous combos with Deathstrike being way bigger, being a 20 power, with a free Zola, with a free Null going down after you've wiped out the whole board. So we did some fun stuff with a negative deck, but again, it relies on you hitting negative. It relies on making sure that she's not in your hand when you're playing negative. And there's so many pieces to it. It's definitely difficult to be, a 90% win rate. Right now, you can have a really big cube gain because you're retreating when you don't have those pieces, but your win rate is not going to be great. And that's really what negative decks have always been. Not so great win rates, but really good cube climbers, because when you drop on turn 6, because 5, you've used, Lady Thor, Jane Foster, and you've pulled Iron Man, Null, Armin Zola, Mystique. You've pulled all that into your hand on turn 6, and all of a sudden you came out of nowhere with some crazy power. But yeah, I'm one of those things where this is probably, to me, the most powerful build of her. But even then, like, is she better than some of the other decks we've seen? Probably not. But I don't know. I want to experiment more with her over time. But I think, to your point, I like your idea. Maybe make her a 4 and see what happens then. And I think if not, you're going to have to bump her up to a 4 power so that she can kill 3s. Yeah. Because there's a lot of really good 3s to kill. Not so many 2s that are going to be as impactful on 5.
Yeah, I think her original intent, in my opinion, is very clearly trying to target specifically Mystique, Iron Man, Dracula, and Patriot.
Yeah.
Cerebro. Throw that little magical power-up ongoing crew.
Yeah.
That's what they're looking to target. And because if you can hit it, I mean, it's a complete decimation mode if you get it to do so. But with other mechanics in there, like Bast, which is in most of those decks, it completely defeats its purpose. So I think that's one of the reasons that making her a 4 power would have that benefit to it. It would really tremendously help then against Bounce. Then it would really help tremendously against just any Bast deck, including negative decks too. Like, it needs that little extra oomph, whether it's lower cost if you're going to leave her at a 3 power, or keep her at a 5 cost, but make her at minimum a 4 power, maybe even higher. Great mechanic. It just, in my opinion, it needs some love.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of kind of love and going from Lady Deathstrike, so again, I think we both are kind of the meh column 4. She's not the worst card. She's not some of the bad.
She hasn't
bad
found
cards.
Her home,
right? But
she hasn't found her home.
She may find it. But speaking of that, we have OTAs. So OTAs one of these OTAs may actually help her a little bit when it comes to boosting her up. So we had three OTAs, and I'll ask before we jump into those OTAs. What are your thoughts on them? Do you think they're kind of meh? Do you think they're pretty good? Were they needed? What are your thoughts there?
For just recapping the OTAs in general?
In general, and then we'll go card for card.
No one asked for these. That's my OTA review.
Hang on. Like, I asked for the first one, but that's it.
Yeah. Okay, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
You asked for that, and it's true, which is Forge. Forge finally got a little bit of extra love. Being a 2/1 who only gave +2 to somebody else.
Yeah.
He needed some love, and you've called it in a past podcast as well. You are correct, where now he went from +2 power to giving +3 power.
Yeah.
So now his total power package is a 2/4, which is very good, but it's just not for him. So if you're going to sacrifice a position on the battlefield at a 1 power, you better be able to make up for it somewhere else with a little bit more over the topness. So I like that they gave Forge the +3. It's not the most important buff we need in the game, but it's a nice, hey, you know what? This is a synergy with Deathstrike type piece.
Yeah.
So
and
thanks, Second Dinner. We appreciate it. But,
well, and this is the other thing. Like, I like this one because there are a couple cards that can benefit. Because you also have the Nimrod stuff, right? The Nimrod's still bouncing around, but Nimrod's very weak if you don't get Shuri, right? Like you have to get the Shuri. And this is not 1-to-1 with Shuri, right? Because you're not going from 6 to 12, but you are going from 6 to 9. And having multiple 9s in a lane is pretty big. So I do like the fact that maybe he gets used there. I think the bounce deck, right? So we saw the Hawkeye change happen, and we've seen some of the changes in that. So now you got a spot where, you know, forge into something good, into a beast pickup, into playing them back down for 1, could be pretty huge. So I do like that. Again, I would agree with you. I don't think this was the number 1 card or anything like that people were asking for. But I would say out of the 3, and we'll get to the other 2, but out of the 3, this is probably the best one for me. And I definitely think I don't think it was necessarily like, hey, everybody hated Lady Deathstrike on Monday, so let's do this. But this is maybe what could make Lady Deathstrike, because now she's going to go from a 3 to a 6. So now we can hit some of those 5 drops and below, and it'd be pretty easy. As well as if you are still in that world of Shuri and or, you know, Wong. I mean, Wong adding 6 to your Lady Deathstrike is going to be pretty good, you know, off of the Forge into Wong, into your Lady Deathstrike, into a Zola to start killing some stuff, right? So I don't know. I think this one is a pretty decent change. I don't think it means he's going to be in every deck, but there's definitely a couple decks now. He's probably a Shuri backup in a few decks there. You know, not the Red Skull deck, but some of the other decks that are out there.
Yeah.
So, so going into Shayna. So Shayna was originally a 4/4, gives you a random 1 cost on each location. Hey, they're making her cheaper at a 3/2, but I honestly think this hurts her a little bit.
Go on.
So
why do you think it's a hurt?
So again, I think a lot of people look at this and they go Surfer, right? 3-drop Surfer, we're good. But the 1 drops kind of mess with your Surfer stuff, right? Your broods and all of that, you've already locked up your locations. And so I think this just goes into a Khazar deck. And by making her a 3, that's great. Taking away 2 power, I think hurts. Because in a Khazar deck, you're already running Zabu, which means she's already a 3, but she would have been a 3/4, and now she's a 3/2. So you're taking away 2 power. And I think that just kind of hurts her in general. Maybe there's some Dazzler, Shayna, you know, Khazar, whatever build, but I don't know. I just think taking away 2 power on a card that you were most likely running Zabu with already, just kind of, in my opinion, is a little bit of a hurt. So
I'm more a fan of it because quite the opposite mechanic. It has nothing to do with Zoo. It has to do with Dazzler. And most people who were trying to make her work were actually using her on turn 6, not on turn 3.
Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying about the power reduction piece, about, you know, she loses 2 power, but at a flat 3 cost now, her overall total between, you know, you look at the total averages of, you know, dropping 3, 1 drops down, her total power in that instance is now averaging about a 3/8, which is really solid. And in that aspect, it's good. I was going to try a Shanna, Dazzler, Surfer, new card below that combination. But my internet, for some reason in Brazil, completely crapped out yesterday after the OTA. There was an AWS issue, according to the devs. So we're like, oh, because I was working on it all day. So I didn't even get to test the deck I wanted to test with her. But I do think there is potential, because I am more often than not playing her on turn 6 when I was using her. Whether you're using her in a death mechanic and you want to try to play her earlier with, you know, put her down on 3, kill Monger on 4, free up the space, you can do that. I mean, I think that she's going to be a card that some of us sleep on for a little while, and then all of a sudden, a meta will require her. Will require all the 1 drops in some capacity. You know, lane fill will become incredibly important. Something along those lines is going to be really, really big. And then when that day comes, we'll be thankful she's a 3/2. I guess until that day, just again, thanks, but
I mean, I can see the reduction. And again, I'm not saying the reduction from a 4 to 3 is bad, because I do like that. I do like how you're saying Dazzler was brought down to a 3. We're bringing Shanna down to a 3. So now we can play both on turn 6. We've got other 3s that are good. But I guess that reduction in power is the kind of spot where I'm just like, man, maybe a 3-3, maybe a 3-3 would have been fine. It just feels like removing that 2 power is a little rough. But I get what you're saying. You know, being able to kind of throw her down on turn 6 and have another 3 rather than the 2. I guess where I get caught with is currently a lot of those decks most likely are running, you know, Zabu in them. So she's already a 60% of your games, right? So we'll see. And like you said, it's probably not going to change this week, and we're just going to see a Shanna deck pop up out of nowhere. But
I will say, though, by making her a 3, though, what you have introduced, though, is the notion that you can play her without Zabu. Because otherwise, prior to it, it was very conditional of, is she an option for you because you have Zabu?
Yeah.
Because at a 4-4, without Zabu, you weren't playing her at all.
That's true.
3-2. Now do I pull this off of the bench for a surprise mechanic option actually comes back into play.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm looking at it more as is this worth my time now? Because I don't have to worry about being dependent on a synergy with Zabu. Is that satisfactory for me? And that's where I think that the change is going to thrive a little bit more. I do think we'll have some Dazzler, you know, people come on down, some more Ultron Zoo Chaos will revisit a little bit again as we see a meta shift again. But you know, just again, this is just another meh. Just like, you know, I know you've wanted a change for the third card that was changed for a while now, but you didn't want this one.
You wanted go back.
Yeah, I know.
make my crystal back where she was.
I know.
Yeah. So again, originally 4-4, each player draws a card. Hey, we're gonna make her a 3-3. Everybody still draws a card, and what I'm torn on, and maybe this is I've got to do it. This is my Magic the Gathering thing, right? Like in Magic, there is a mechanic, which is discard cards, draw cards. That is a very powerful mechanic. Now, again, Magic, you have a 60 card deck. You really want to sculpt your hand. So here we're at a 12 card. But the fact that you were able to discard and draw 3 was huge. Being able to, and really it's different, right? You didn't really discard them. You put them back in your deck and you drew a new hand, which is like your wheels and stuff like that in Magic. And that's very powerful. And I just feel like we lost that. We lost that mechanic. We lost that very powerful card to where, I mean, if you think about it, right? Collector says if you get a card from anywhere outside your deck, that means they can easily make a card that says every time you draw a card, it gets blah. And I get that with Thanos, that card may be powerful, but then, you know, maybe that's an archetype, right? And maybe it's a 1-drop. So that way somebody just says, hey, that's nice, and you're playing Thanos, but my Killmonger just literally kills that card plus your stones. But this gives you that would have given you another card to add with that archetype. And so I hate that we lost it. Hopefully, if it just goes to a different card, that would be great as well. But I'm just still not a fan of giving my opponent the one card that they probably needed. And in the world where we always, or I won't say always, in a world where we have 60 to 70% of our games are turn 7 now, we're literally not drawing one card. We're literally not drawing 1 or 2 cards. And this is going to be that game breaker of you gave them the card. So I know that you view that slightly different than I do, but I use it as more of, I don't want to give them a card because again, if I build my deck correctly, I'm okay with not drawing that card, right? I got 2 win conditions, and unless I'm in the really worst spot ever, probably didn't need that card.
The best way to personify this crystal change of going from a 4-4 to a 3-3 was with something that I saw on Reddit. And I'm not a huge Reddit user. I have learned to start to become one because of SnapFan. But and I wish I knew who the credit was, so I apologize if this is you and you're listening to this and I'm not crediting you properly. There was a perfect meme that was made about it. And It's the scene in Jurassic Park where Wayne Knight is sitting down in the cafe out on the beach, and they're worried about talking out loud about, you know, the dinosaurs and all that. And it's Wayne Knight pointing, hey, guys, look, he's got dinosaurs in his bag, or whatever the line is exactly. It's that whole moment. It's like, look, nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
That's exactly the Crystal change. It's like, hey, guys, look, they made Crystal a 3/3 now. They did, she's a 3. Nobody gives a shit, because the mechanic is the problem. She has 1, maybe 2 good uses in this specific mechanic, which is when you're on ladder and high rolling, specifically for Hela, which is how I've used her.
Yeah.
Because if you're pulling your Hela mechanic because of Crystal, sure, let them have all their cards. Chances are they're not going to outdo what the giant power drop of a Hela discard deck is going to do on the final turn.
Right.
More often than not. So at that point, it's fine. The other potential point on that, which feeds a little bit to this change, is Devil Dino on 5, Mystique on 6, now Crystal also on 6. Prior, that was dependent on, again, having Zabu down.
Yeah.
So now you've removed that dependency. So you get that little bit of an extra buff at the very end of the game. It's like, do one more draw. It beefs up another 2 to you. Sure, that's great, because it's not going to affect your opponent on the final turn.
Yeah, but that's hard, because like if that's what you're going into, and I get that this could be a secondary card, but like you'd be better off putting Maximus, right? At 3/7, and you draw. No, I guess they draw, so it's more of a Ronin. But
they draw. That's Ronin, right? Exactly.
No,
if you're doing Ronin, that's the case. But if you're doing Dino, Crystal has a home there only on turn 6. Hence why I'm going to say I can quickly think of 1.5 uses.
I can think of another
for
half.
her that's really stellar.
I can think of another half use, which maybe rounds it up to 2 uses, which would be Surfer. I can see her being in Surfer to make sure you draw your Surfer, but again, you're opening up the door to giving them their Dino, right? That beats a lane,
right?
Their Cosmo, whatever it is, the card that they needed, and that's where I kind of hit that a little bit of like, again, maybe it's to help make sure you've magicked and now you're going to crystal, so you get all your cards, but they also get all their cards. So that's where it's like, I understand it, the extra card, and I think the only really good use case is that Hela deck use case to make sure you get another big drop to discard, and or make sure you get your Modok, make sure you get your Hela, whatever you needed. But it's just in that kind of situation where it's just like being symmetrical on both sides is not a good thing. And maybe it would be quote unquote too powerful if you just drew a card. But then I would say, well, look at the stones.
Yeah.
The stones let you draw a card, and they're all strong.
No. I'm going to counter you on that one, though.
I know
because
they got put in your deck, so they're already adding a card, but.
Well, not even that part. It's the idea of just how the percentages break down. The fact that not all the stones also draw additionally. So you're not guaranteed, unless if you pull the Mind Stone on turn 1, that's typically a snap scenario for most Thanos decks, because it's the best possible case, and the percentage chance for it to happen is low. Minus that one scenario with Thanos decks, I would say in the Crystal scenario, if you just had a card that said draw a card, tell you confidently, it would be in every single deck. The reason that Adam Warlock isn't is because it's a conditional piece and he's 0 power.
Yeah.
So it's really, which is a whole nother topic up into itself, that I think he's an absolute trash card, because even in negative, you're not playing him until turn 4, maybe.
Yeah.
It's like,
I'm telling you,
he needs a bunch of love.
People don't agree, but I'm telling you, put him a 2/1 and he will not be played in every deck, but he will start to get play. It's the only way. He has to have power to get any kind of play. And maybe if this was one-sided, she'd need to be like a 3/2 or something. But I agree with you. If it was one-sided, you'd find her in a lot of decks, not every deck, but you'd find her in more decks, because she would help with your curve, and you would have to make sure she has a negative to her, which means she'd have to be a 3/2 or a 3/1 or something like that.
If anything, like if you're going to do that mechanic of draw a card, I think you're going to hate me, but I don't care. I think the only mechanic that makes that work for Crystal is if you make her 5 cost.
Yeah, I mean,
exclusively.
as long as she has decent power on there, it'd be okay.
5-3. 5-3.
Then she's not being played.
If you're gonna, is she though? Think about it.
No. At a 5, I would rather play so many more power cards on 5. Your 5 slot is your power card slot. It's either something on the side of Iron Man, Dino, Ronin, even like a Darkhawk's a 4, but realistically, if Darkhawk's a problem, he needs to be a 5, just like all the rest. Right. But it's one of those things where like your 5 is either that or it's your shutdown cards. It's your Sandman, it's your Leech, it's your I'm gonna make it to where you can't do what you want to do. And just by 5-3 draw a card, no, you're wasting your turn 5 to draw one more card. It's because again, even if you look at your discard deck, it's your MODOK, it's your Nimrod, it's your power card, it's your this is what your deck is about card, and draw cards not that. So
I don't know if I agree with you. It's a very good point though, because the reason I push against it is because with America Chavez then and Crystal on turn 5 not helping your opponent, then you've pulled 10 out of the 11 cards by turn 5 going into turn 6, which then is Chavez. So at that combo point that you're sacrificing your power card to get your combo card that you can drop on turn 6, then I think there is a potential play in there.
I don't know. See, like in that case, I just wouldn't play Chavez. And turn 6, I may draw my combo card as well.
Absolutely play Chavez, because then it's consistent. It's even more consistent. # Team Chavez.
Well, what I'm saying is then if Crystal didn't draw your card,
then you run
5-3. Yeah, but at least without a Chavez, you still have the potential that she could draw it. But I don't know. I would just say that, again, this is fine. A 3-3, sure, we may see it pop up in a couple decks. We'll still see it in the Helidex. This is going to make it better in the Helidex. It gives you if you didn't have Magic on 3, you can play her on 3, and then maybe you get your Magic on 4, and you play Magic on 4. So this is going to make the Helideck way more consistent with that one simple change. But I will say overall, I'm still sad. We lost an amazing mechanic that we never got to use. And again, the reason why we couldn't get to use it is because it always had to be played in the center location.
Right.
If you open that up to any location, she would be played. She would get played. And I guarantee you, if she was even a 4-4, but now if she was a 3-3, play anywhere, discard your hand, draw cards, she would get played all the time. And I'm not saying discard because that's wrong, because then hell, blah, blah, blah. I'm saying put your cards back in your deck, redraw, then she would get played. But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, the OTA changes, like you said, I don't think anybody asked for the Crystal change. Nobody asked for the Shanna change. Will they be okay? Probably. If you are already playing them, they're definitely decent changes if you were in those archetypes. And then, of course, the Forge change, I think, is probably, to me, the best change out of OTAs, just because it maybe makes Lady Deathstrike playable, and it maybe helps as a backup in some type of Nimrod, whatever type deck, a bounce deck. There's a handful of places now he can probably be used. And even in your Series 1 and 2 cards, maybe he's going to find a little bit more of a home that we didn't have before. Because even Move, imagine him coming down, and then you've got, your Human Torch into a Ghost Spider. So now you're going to have really big cards flying on turn 3. Maybe it's him into Vulture into, Ghost Spider. Now you've got a really big Vulture, right? So I think even though it's just one more additional power, I think it does make a big difference. And of course, they give the examples of like Deadpool, right? Deadpool's another one of those cards where you see him here and there. He kind of keeps disappearing and then reappearing, but this maybe brings that archetype, that small death package back up that we didn't have before with Lady Deathstrike, right? And I think that was, if I had my opinion, that was one of their intentions. So with Forge, with, these additional updates and things like that, we do have the new card coming with X23, who, I don't know, maybe Forge can also help the card out a little bit, but this card, X23, is going to be dropping on Monday, and I know you're traveling, sir. You're packing all your stuff up to come, so they're probably not going to have a Monday night podcast or anything like that. but wanted to kind of throw this out here now. Our predictions on X23. So she's a 1/2. And when this is discarded or destroyed, regenerate it at a random location and you get 1 extra energy. So again, think about kind of like the Death's Altar, but mini, but also she comes back. So yeah, I'm excited about it. What do you think about this, Guest?
I think that Deadpool found a best friend. And because this is exactly what Destroy specifically needed more than anything else. Is this card to give that little bit of extra way, because now you're going to start seeing Deadpool anywhere and everywhere because of this. You try to get Deadpool down. If you can't get Nova and Deadpool, you go Deadpool X23. Get the extra energy and then continue on your merry way. Do everything else and just build into the lane that she's in for the destroy mechanic every single time. That's it. And just redrop Deadpool, destroy it again, comes back into the hand, she reappears somewhere else. Well, I guess I'm going over here now. Like that's basically the X23 mechanic, in my opinion. It's specifically to make Deadpool unreal good. From a discard aspect, you've got the 1 extra bonus with not Lady Sif, the other one, Colleen Wing, specifically, that it will guaranteed hit X23, because more often than not in discard packages anyway, if you're running at all, I should say, a 1-drop, it's a Sunspot or a Nebula, and then you just kind of toss it out, whatever it is. So now if this is an option and you don't have to play it on turn 1 to get its maximum potential benefit, then this is a great card to pull on turn 3 or 4 even. Go ahead and discard it and then get a big card down earlier on. This helps Hela as well, because the idea of playing down your Invisible Woman on turn 2 and then Colleen winging this on turn 4 to put Hela down on turn 5 behind the Invisible Woman really throws people off from a defensive standpoint, because sure, they're expecting the MODOK on 5 followed by the Hela on 6. And as someone who's gone through a lot of, Hela play last season as well, it very often came to a very strong package play of, if I couldn't get that combo to work out or I had to play my magic down, getting just Hela behind it and then wait for the MODOK on turn 6 or 7 to play it out in the open, then you had a successful mechanic. And I think that there's a readjustment in Hela for her specifically also.
Yeah. And there's other cards, right, that are going to be really good with her. So to your point, it's going to be good with Colleen Wing. We've got Silver Samurai coming later this month as well, which discards, both players discard their lowest cards. So that gives you a secondary, discard it again, get extra energy again. We've got, Dakin that just came out this month, so giving you another 1-drop, whether you're in destroy, whether you're in discard. So that way, if you don't have X23, but you're using Colleen Wing or Silver Samurai, you maybe have the shard that you can do as well. So yeah, I think this month, right, they've put a lot of pieces together to make things happen, because now she's a 2. Lady Deathstrike can kill her if you're in the destroy decks. You've got the, and again, I like that Deadpool play, like you're mentioning, being able to kind of put Nova into Deadpool plus her into, Carnage, or maybe you Carnage that turn, you pulled back your Deadpool, you pulled back, your cards, then you're playing her plus Deadpool plus, Deathstrike, or, like there's each of those turns where you're
Enterprise, Deathlock,
sorry.
Deathstrike's the other guys.
Yeah. I don't know. I always get them confused, even though they are what they are. But
I'm wearing the wrong T-shirt for the day anyway, too. So
they
whatever.
Both have half a face covered, But anyway,
facts.
So
they have good aim.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, as you just keep playing things in here. I mean, I think she's just gonna be a good card overall. The thing is, she's not gonna grow. So I think that's gonna be the one thing people have to keep in the back of her mind. She's always a 1/2. It's not Wolverine bouncing around. It's not Deadpool. It's not those cards, but the extra energy, it's a free card right now. When you're getting this extra energy, to your point with Deadpool, it's a free card on Deadpool. Deadpool's issue, and again, it's not an issue, but his issue has been the fact that he's always 1 extra energy. So just like Kitty Pryde, you're always playing 1 energy down. So when you're wanting to play him plus whatever, like a kill spell, you're having to do it on 4 instead of 3. So now this opens the door of her plus Deadpool, you know, and then having Carnage or having whatever start this process a lot earlier, so you can start to kind of, you know, do these combos. So
you've got me theory crafting in my head as you're talking about some of these combos with her.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see someone successfully build using Forge and her a Cerebro 5 deck. It would have actually been better with the old Forge for Cerebro 4, because then you would have had the Carnage combo, you would have had a Wolverine combo, you would have had a bunch that all could end in 4. But even if you give her a buff that way for Cerebro 5, I wonder if there is a package there with like Absorbing Man and Deathlock and like Titania, and you know, like this is where my brain is starting to go. I'm literally sitting here theory crafting. I have no idea what you said, but I'm sitting here theory crafting.
There
like,
were
maybe there's a
5s.
combo.
There were some 5s because Nimrod used to be in it and a few other cards, but now he's 6. So definitely each of these
Dr.
OTAs,
Doom previously.
These OTAs definitely just changed things.
Dismantled.
But yeah, I think it'll be a really cool card. I don't think it'll be a game changer week 1, but I definitely think this is going to be one of those. I'm going to say sleeper because, one, she's going to get used a ton, right? So she's not a sleeper in that aspect, but I do think it's going to take us like a week to really fine tune the deck. And so I predict a week or 2 from now, somebody's going to have some crazy deck that's not obvious on there. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. And it'll be like,
it's discard bounce. Tell you right now, the answer is discard bounce. It's going to happen. Just wait for it. And you heard it here first. Someone's going to figure out discard bounce successfully with like bouncing Colleen wing back and reduce the X-23 down to a 0 cost, so it's guaranteed to hit, and then destroy it with Carnage and have it come back and bounce and shit. Like, it's going to be absolutely bonkers. Just wait for it. It's going to happen, especially because Forge is better now too. That's just me personally.
So it's one of those cards where I'm excited about it because I think that this, just like the bounce architect that kind of came out of nowhere, we all had the cards, but then of course getting things like Kitty Pryde, Hit Monkey, things like that, it just like exploded. And I think that this card will find its match and find explode. And it may take Silver Samurai. It may take some of these, you know, people experimenting with Lady Deathstrike. I don't know, but I think what'll happen is a couple weeks from now, a deck's going to come together and it's going to be like, man, this is nuts and this is insane because of the way you kind of plug them all together. So yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm definitely excited to see what comes out of this.
It has
card.
the most potential, I think, out of all of them.
Yeah.
Like for theory crafters specifically to say, well, start messing with the cost, start messing with the power, see what you could do with this. How important is certain energy on certain turns? Like, this is a theory crafter's dream card.
Yeah.
To say, have fun, go play. Like, that's what I think is going to happen is we're going to see some crazy decks. I'm excited to do the day 2 article. I'll be with you, but like, I'm excited to do the day 2 article on Wednesday to read these X-23 decks. Like, I'm going to be bouncing shit off of you. Like, oh, this is such a good idea. Why didn't I think of this? Like, I have ideas, like I just spitting some of them out now, but like, I'm curious how this community is going to react to X-23 and how crazy people are going to go for her with their spotlights. Because so many people have been saying, I'm saving for X-23. I'm saving for X-23. All right, bring it on. What do you got now? Like,
I think the other upside though with this week talking about saving your spotlights and stuff is we also got Silk, you know, as being one of the other cards in these spotlights, which is huge because with the rise of this Silk movement, you know, Lammy's deck and all the other ones that have kind of been around in the format, a lot of people just didn't have Silk to play with it. And this is going to be a perfect week that if you have some cash saved up, there's a lot of good hits with this week. So, you know, of course, we've definitely got, you know, Silver Samurai coming I think the following week, but this is one of those where, you know, still going to be a good one between her and Silk. And I agree with you. I think if you got the spotlights, if you're looking for this card, if you like Destroy in any way, if you like Discard in any way, I believe she will become a staple in those decks. We just don't know what those decks look like yet. So I would 100% look at look at something like that, because again, if you can kill her on turn 5, always going into turn 7 with, or 6 with 7 energy is a big thing. Being able to drop a 4 and a 3 or whatever you may have. So definitely keep your eye out on that.
And don't sleep on, you know, Nebula either, for those who didn't get the pass. You know, Nebula is a great card additionally as well. But as someone who has a full collection, I'm kind of hoping to use 2 caches specifically because I really want that Silk variant.
You're going to use 4, but...
Shut up. Shut up, you dirty, bearded heathen.
I'll be the one that uses 4 just to kill all my caches as I'm trying to get the Dan Hips next month. We got 2 Dan Hips we got to next month, but we'll see. Again, really wish we had some Series 4s this month. That would have been nice to save some and use some tokens, but we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. So all in all, I think X23, great card. It's gonna find a home, and I'm excited to see what people are gonna come up with it. So
I think discard, and this is an interesting point too, before we switch it.
Yeah.
Because this is another one of those cards, like Dakin is, right? Where it's when this is discarded or destroyed.
Yeah.
Where do you think she's going to succeed more? Will it be destroy or will it be discard?
I honestly think it's probably the first week. It's definitely destroy. Second week, because we get potential Silver Samurai and we have 2 targeted discards on her, maybe we get something in discard. My problem with discard is like looking and saying what's going to benefit the most from a discard deck with her. And it's hard because it's like, okay, if you can target a Recalling Wing, what do I do that with that energy the next turn that's going to matter? Right. So
pick me. Well, I'll tell you. Pick me. I'll tell you. But it's okay. I have your answer.
Before we jump into the answer though, right? Like I think it's I know you got the answer. I think the thing is
Killjoy.
People have to look at what deck you're playing, right? Like, are we playing, like you've mentioned, Hela, or we have Apocalypse, and what's our finisher? So I think that one of the big things that has to be figured out with the discard variant, and I'm not saying it's not going to work, but it's really finding that curve. And I think destroy, and this is why I say week 1, I think it's destroy. Destroy, it's easy. There's a path to destroy, whereas when you get in discard, until you get Silver Samurai, you have 1 targeted, and then the other ones are going to be cross your fingers, right? But I'll throw it over to you. So if I were to Colleen Wing her on 2 and get her out there, like what am I speeding up to? That's going to be the perfect line that you think for discard.
Dracula on 3. That's your win. It's either Dracula or Hellcow on 3. And getting that 4 cost card out earlier to now play 2 of them is the biggest win of X23, in my opinion, from the discard standpoint, because you're constantly going back and forth on the 4 cost slot in particular. You know your 5 is going to be a MODOK. You know your 6 is most likely going to be an America Chavez and Apocalypse.
Right.
So the other 4 that you could potentially now play because of Colleen winging specifically X23 as the only 1 cost card in your deck. If you're looking to play Colleen Wing on 2 to get her out of the way, and she'll regen then onto the battlefield additionally. So you're now playing for 2 costs, you're getting 6 power because she's going to appear somewhere very similar to Wolverine. So that's a great combo in and of itself just from power side. Then knowing that I can build differently with my 3 costs, sure, I could go the Dakin combo, but I think that actually interferes with it a bit. I think you have to choose your battle when it comes to Colleen Wing. It's either playing X23 or the Dakin combo.
Yeah.
And then using Colleen Wing on turn like 4 or 5 even.
Yeah.
But I think that X23 with Colleen Wing is going to be a little bit scary because it will then have a lot of bigger outs. For ramping that power because of other cards like Hellcow, for example.
Yeah. And I think that's where
that's what I think.
Yeah. And I think that's where when you look at it, right? Like she's gonna be a good card. I think the other side of it, the reason why I think she'll shine a little bit more in destroys is you can trigger this effect multiple times. Discard, you can do it once, right? So to your point, if you have Calling Wing or you have Silver Samurai or whatever, right? There's a deck that can do it. And I think that Dakin probably, if you're going that route, maybe if you're playing both of those, Calling Wing and Silver Samurai, maybe give you that out to be able to play Dakin with her. But I would 100% agree in the fact that like when you're doing it, it's going to make you have to have a certain line. And I do like the Apocalypse deck version of it because you're able to, you know, Colleen Wing into, you know, a Hellcow to try to hit your Apocalypse again, you know, multiple times throughout your discards and stuff. So yeah,
maybe there's a Ghost Rider play in here somewhere. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But
so
I think I agree with you. Destroy, I think, is the overall like initial winner.
Yeah.
But then someone's gonna find the bounce, discard, whatever it is, combo with her that just breaks the game because of one extra power on a very specific turn. So now I can play X, Y, and Z in a certain order, and it's just unreal.
Yeah.
But it will happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving from there and kind of just talking about the fact that we've seen, you know, all of X23 and the new cards and OTAs and all of that. One of the big things is we get to kind of talk about this in person, and we talked about this a little bit on Monday. We've talked about this on a couple different podcasts, but the reason why we're not going to have that Monday podcast to review X23, really dive into there, and that's why we're doing it now, is we have SnapCon. So SnapCon is going to be here in Tampa, and this is the reason why we're going to have a lot of streamers, probably not streaming too much next weekend. So not this upcoming weekend, but the following weekend. Or I guess not this weekend because this will be coming out on the weekend. So next weekend, the 25th and the 26th here in Tampa, we've got SnapCon. It is the first official, unofficial Snap convention, right? It's put on by the people. That's the big thing. I want to make sure people understand that this is put on, you know, really driven by Felicity. I know I've got myself doing all the tournament stuff. We've got TC really handling all the back end stuff. We've got Jolly taking care of the Snap Awards, the first official and hopefully annual Snap Awards, which I know we're nominated here at the podcast as well as
we'll find out.
You're nominated. You're nominated in a few other categories as well. But it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun, and we've got that going on next weekend. So we've got like, I don't know, Thursday night we're hanging out with everybody. We've got the convention on Friday and Saturday. I'm sure Sunday we'll have a whole recap. We'll probably record something on Sunday just talking about SnapCon and everything. But wanted to let you guys know, tickets still are on sale. You can still pick up tickets. We've got plenty of content creators coming with more and more, you know, announcing almost weekly that they're coming. And we've got the official schedule out as well. So you can see all this on snapcon2023.com. It'll take you over here, which is also felicity.gg/snapcon. So you can see that. So I'm super excited about SnapCon. What are you looking forward to the most, sir, when it comes to SnapCon?
Being able to finally meet some of the people that I've been speaking to for years. You know, there are many people from both of our communities, as you know, that we have gotten to know from multiple different games. Many of our community members have gone with us from game to game to game as well. And many of them are going to end up there. And the Marvel Snap community as well, who has joined in with everything, whether it's Snap.fan, your channel, my channel, like, you know, we've been so intertwined that it's going to be weird because you're introducing, hi, who are you? I'm Ben. Hi, Ben. Nice to meet you. Actually, I'm blank, blank, blank 482. Oh my God, it's you. Like, there's always that little delay moment.
Yeah.
But it's cool to still like then have to put that association together. Like, for example, you know, you and I, you know, Lori's going to be there, who's a longtime follower and supporter from like exactly like I'm talking about as a perfect example from multiple different games from our communities. We got her hooked into Snap, and now she's going to SnapCon. And for the first time in 3 years of online meetings and working together and moderation and all this kind of stuff, I finally get to meet her. So there's these kinds of moments that I'm looking forward to. And even people that I've just started to get to know the past like 2 weeks. Tucker is a great example. He's a creator that I've just started to get to know over the last couple of weeks. And he just seems like my kind of guy. And it's whether it's 3 years or 2 weeks, doesn't matter. Meeting the people and hanging out and talking Snap and life and passions. And then, yes, the event says things end up at 5:30, but we all know that those things do not end at 5:30. There will be befores, there will be afters, there will be all the above. It's going to be a fully packed weekend of just being with people that share our interests. And I'm excited for that. Game shows, awards, tournaments, love them all. They're great. I'm there for the people more than anything else.
Yeah, and that's the big thing, right? Like so when I did Creator Clash, like the tournament was great. Kawa and STG and Loot Muncher, they did an amazing thing, production, getting it together, getting us all out there. But the thing that I remember most is not playing in the tournament. It was hanging out with everybody. We went to like a karaoke bar one of the nights. Like it was just about just waking up in the morning at the hotels, going down to breakfast, just chilling in a room with everybody, chatting, and just making those connections. And again, that's where I met Felicity with the whole SnapCon stuff. It's where I met STG, just all these guys that have really created those bonds in the community. And it's awesome that, someone is willing to stick their neck out, and I'm talking about Felicity specifically, but willing to stick their neck out to say, hey, let's make an event for the people. Let's make an event that's going to be fun. And, we're trying to find sponsors. We have some sponsors, again, Impulse being one of the biggest sponsors of the event. We've got several others that are helping us out, whether they're going to be on site with us, hanging out with us. They've got, free samples, different things like that of different companies that are coming, but it's being able to create that world where we can all come and hang out for the weekend. And so I'm, again, very appreciative for, Felicity kind of coming up with this, reaching out to me about, helping out with it in the tournaments. The space is amazing. It's at the actual Tampa Convention Center. We've got a ballroom, and who knows if this goes crazy awesome, because I know we got 100+ people, signed up for it with tickets already, and hopefully we'll get more as we roll into next week. Maybe next year we get 2 ballrooms. Who knows? I'm hoping, putting it out there, so maybe it ends up happening, but it's going to be awesome. We've got, of course, we'll get to the tournaments in a second, but we've got things like Family Feud. So if you guys are interested in that, I know there's a survey floating around. I'll try to get you that link, guest, so we can put it somewhere. But there's a survey floating around of different questions. So just like the Family Feud style, 1,000, Snap people were, surveyed. What is the worst Snap card out there, right? Like whatever it is, but we've got Family Feud. We've got panels. We've got the WSF with a live event on stage. So if you guys want to check that out, I will be going up against SDG, who stole my title last month, or I guess the month before that, working on getting that back. We've got team draft battles, trivia, the Snap Awards that we talked about, just a ton of fun. And again, with those wrap-ups, closing out at 6 or whatever, that's not when the event ends. That's when the ballroom closes, because we got to make sure equipment, all of that's taken care of. But after that, there'll be after parties, there'll be dinners, there'll be hanging out. Like I said, maybe we'll all stumble into another karaoke bar, bowling, whatever that looks like. It'll be fun. So lots of stuff going on.
Keyword stumble.
Yeah.
So yes,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So
no, it's going to be a really fun time. Especially like the tournament side of it.
Yeah.
I'm very curious to see how these tournaments feel with this new version that you're rolling out, if you will, for a Marvel Snap style tournament, with these pods and, being in person for it. Granted, I don't know if I'm playing or if I'm working, but I know
maybe a little both.
I will be. He hasn't.
Maybe
he hasn't told me a damn thing. I think he's doing it specifically because you guys know on the stream, like I've been asking for weeks, what am I doing to help out, man? Because I volunteered to both Felicity and to Default Dan, like, hey, I'm going to be there anyway. So if you need something, let me know. And they're like, yeah, absolutely. We'll be utilizing you. So that's as much as I know. That scares me. I have a feeling I'm going to have a staff lanyard and I'm not taking it off. Okay. So I'm a little worried, but so, I hope to still have a good time.
So I'm going to help you out. I'm going to help you out with that. Right. So here's, and again, this was announced on how the tournaments worked a couple weeks ago, just in general, But this is the fun part about it, right? So the way these are set up, and this is because SnapCon's gonna be a lot of fun. There's gonna be a lot going on, like we said, panels, Jeopardy, meeting creators. Like we're gonna have guys like Binks, right? Like everybody wants to meet Binks. He's a cool dude. Come hang out with him, chill with him. I think he's actually gonna be doing battles against, you know, people, just random people. Like, hey, come up, battle Binks, whatever that's gonna be set up. So what we want to make sure is we don't want you guys locked into 12 hours of a tournament like we would normally have on these opens and big tournaments. So we're setting up a little different. We're doing pods. And the way that's going to work is 8 people are going to sign up and you're going to have an 8-person tournament, which means at most you're going from 8 to 4 to finals, right? It's 3 rounds. That's all it is. And then the winner of those pods are going to move on to our tournament on day 2. So we're hoping that's like, you know, 40 minutes or an hour, 90 minutes tops. Because here's the other thing about it, which will be amazing being in person. We don't have to wait in between rounds. We don't have to wait on people to put their score in because they forgot to click a button. We don't have to wait on somebody not sitting across from you because literally we're going to say, tournament starting, go sit down, be in front of your opponent, right? Like it's going to be so much smoother being in person. So these should run a lot quicker. And so we're going to be plugging those people, you know, everybody who wins is going to move on to day 2. We're going to have random casters. So the important thing to know, if you can't make it to SnapCon, this will be streamed. Both sides are going to be streamed. So main stage stuff is going to be over on twitch.tv/Felicity, and all of the tournament stuff minus the finals, all of the tournament stuff will be held on the Default Dan Twitch. So twitch.tv/Default Dan. So all of Friday, we're going to have that going, as well as partially on Saturday with different things happening as well throughout before we get to the finals. Once we get to the final tournament, that will be on main stage. So we'll raid over to Felicity and all of that and take care of it. But essentially, that should allow everybody who wants to play a chance to play. Now, this is where, guest, you get to play. So I'll need you helping me out here and there, giving me, you know, some extra help, you know, arranging everything and getting there. But you'll be able to pick up one of those pods and you know, jump in there and play. And if you make it to day 2, then I guess I'm gonna have to find a different caster for day 2. But like I said, we're gonna have so many people there. We'll be plugging casters in and out for every round because we want to just showcase the people, the casters, everybody's that's there. And I think it's gonna be a ton of fun. So I'm really, really looking excited to, you know, for the tournament itself there at SnapCon, because it is going to be kind of a first of its kind, a huge in-person, open to the public in person. So anybody that's at SnapCon, you are able to participate. This isn't an invite only, whatever type situation, which will be awesome leading into day 2. And kind of speaking of tournaments, or actually, you know what? I announced this on Monday and we didn't use the podcast. So we'll kind of recap it real quick. The other thing that's going to be going on with the tournament. So another reason why you want to participate in SnapCon. One, we're going to have raffles going on constantly throughout the con. So if you're participating in events, panels, whatever, you'll get some tickets for the raffles. But for the tournament section, I'm going to have a prize wall. So with the prize wall, I'm going to have things like comic books. And let me jump over here. So when it comes to the prize wall, so these are just a few of the prizes that are out there. I've got tons of different things. And the way it'll work is as you participate in these tournaments, whether it's a pod there, or we're just going to have some open gaming, because maybe you just want to get a couple friends in there, right? And playing and stuff like that. You can get some tickets, some points. I don't know what I'm going to call them yet, but you're going to get some of those and you're going to be able to use those on the prize wall. You can get things like
Caches. Just
right.
Call them caches.
They're caches. So you can get your caches.
You get a prize. You open it, you get a cash. Ta-da!
So we've got things, and again, this is on the YouTube side. If you're listening on the podcast, I'll explain what I have. But I've got like these mystery boxes, right? And these are some old...
He's holding a box. He's now opening a box. The box is black. There's shiny things in the box.
Mystery boxes, right? So like I've got 4 or 5 of these guys that have a random Venomized Fantastic Four pop. We've got like a Venomized keychain. This one has a Venomized Galactus keychain. We've got a sticker. We've got a Pez back there, a pin, all kind of stuff. So that's
He's
one
showing
of the things.
the pop.
Yeah, so that's one of the things. We got a few of those, right?
Just going audio description for you, just because it's way more fun for the listeners more than the watchers that way, because they're sitting there going, I hear cardboard. I don't understand. It's a box. Got it. Like
it's a box. The
But no,
box has stuff.
Yeah,
No,
because they're sitting there going, "What's in the box?" And it's like, "It's a podcast." You know, you're not helping anybody here. But
we've got some of those. We've got comic books, right? So here's your Spider-Man 1
shiny.
Todd McFarlane. Again, if you're a fan of that variant in game, here's the actual comic book of it. We've got things like X-Force 1 collector's edition. We've got even some of the Marvel Masterpiece reprints. So giant size X-Men 1, first appearance of Iron Man. We've got X-Men 1, all kinds of like really cool comics. Again, just good value in that, as well as great stuff. We've got wooden pictures. So these are 12 inches by 16 inches or something like that. Wood, MDF board, comic covers. So we got 3 or 4 of those to give away. That specific one was Avengers and other stuff. We've got some Funko Pop pins. So if you like the big enamel pins, and they're a chunky size pin, but all kinds of stuff. So we've got prizes upon prizes for people that just participate.
The giant poster, as long as it fits in a suitcase, I can go for it. So, but everything else, I like the small stuff. So that's very exciting that there's going to be some, investment back for doing well. And, everybody loves Chuck E. Cheese, so we might as well have, Snappy Cheese or whatever we want to call it.
And this is also me just rating my secret stash of stuff.
Don't tell them that. This is not your spring cleaning prize wall.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying these are things that I've tucked away for myself, but I want to give back to the community, like comic books and things like that. Like I love the community, and I want to make sure that, I'm bringing this stuff for you guys. So it's one of those things where, yes, you'll be able to get something if you don't make top 4 and things like that, because we do have cash prizes for the people who finish in that tournament. But we know, you may not be able to, but you still want to play. You still want to have some fun. And this is something where there are prizes for people that don't make top 8, top 4, and other things like that. So I'm excited about it. It should also increase playability in tournaments and all of that. So speaking of tournaments, as we kind of start to wrap up with the podcast and stuff, we've got the tournaments that just happened. We had a lot of tournaments, and again, wanted to kind of touch on these a little bit because there was a lot. We had Wednesday Night Snap this past Wednesday. Again, big shout out to Impulse sponsoring that with Snap Fan, so that we could give away some awesome stuff on stream, like season passes, gold, things like that. But we also had the Open. So we had the Open this past Sunday. We had Battle Arena on Saturday. We had the Hong Kong tournament on Friday. I mean, I think there was 400 people on the Hong Kong one. We had, 100 and something people on Battle Arena. We had close to 200, we had a lot, right at 200, over 200, right?
Yeah.
On Sunday.
Over 200 in total.
Yeah. So, I mean, all of the players coming out for these. Want to give a big shout out to Snap Fans' one and only Torikun for Friday, making it into the final 4 of that Hong Kong event. So he's going to get flown out there, free room, free board, and a chance to win. I think it's $4 or $5 grand in there.
$5 grand, yeah.
Yeah. So it's
$5 grand pool, man.
Going to be pretty big there, as well as, again, Battle Arena had a successful one, and the Snap Fan Open being successful. So I want to kind of pull up those decks for just a second, talk through those for a minute here. But we had the decks coming up, and if you guys didn't know, we had Lemmy Series taking down the whole tournament with some incredible comebacks, technically undefeated. He went into top 8 with 2 draws, which we are looking at timers and things like that for the draws. But if you guys didn't know about his deck, I'll run through that real quick, and then we'll get your thoughts, guests, just on the tournament in general. Yeah. But Lemmy brought in this weird new silky smooth move deck. We've got Kitty Pryde, Angela, Craven, Jeff, Silk, the new Spider-Man, Shang-Chi, Captain Marvel, Miles Morales, Legion, Vision, and America Chavez. So that ended up being kind of the deck that was here. And this is again why I'm saying X23 week, you may want to pick up Silk. And it was just amazing to watch. So guests, what were your thoughts? Because I know you helped with the admin, but you also casted. You also casted some on that Sunday as well.
Yeah, we had the pleasure of being able to see Lammy series in the top 8 in a variety of battles and from different perspectives. And being able to see this deck be piloted as a caster, I absolutely enjoyed in 2 different directions. Number 1, as a caster, this deck just does so much all the time, and this card's moving over here, and that like for a play-by-play action as a caster, you can't ask for more from a deck because everything moves, and then you're looking at powers that go up and what plays could counter it, and it's just incredibly entertaining to watch and to broadcast.
Yeah.
As a player, it's a really, really great masterclass in understanding your deck inside and out. Because when he started to build this deck, you know, this wasn't the original version, obviously.
Right,
it went through many different revisions and many different variations of showcasing how the Kitty Angela Craven Silk kit works, and then adding on little pieces here and there, like Marvel, like Shang-Chi, like, and just kind of building it piece by piece. And I've tried multiple versions of that engine since. And I will confidently say none of them go up to snuff versus this specific engine. And hysterically, I think it actually has to do with vision more than any other card.
Yeah.
I've played this deck several times in the testing different phases, both in Conquest now and on Ladder. And every single time you drop vision on 5, your opponent is so scared and confused of what's going to happen to that 8 power card that they spread wide on turn 6. And no matter what plan you go with, you go narrow 2 lanes, your win rate goes through the roof.
Yeah.
I did not think it was that necessary. I've been trying to build it into a Stature Black Bolt shell. I was trying to build it into a Darkhawk shell. I was trying to build it into a Bounce shell. I was trying so many different things. Vision scares people more than any other card in that deck, hands down, because every time it went down, I won. I felt incredibly solid with that. Legion, of course, is just, you know, the card that's taking over the game right now. It's always a fun defensive piece to kind of throw in there too, but I found myself winning more with Vision than Legion. That's just me personally, but watching this deck be played, if you have the ability to build it, go for it. If you don't have Silk for now, go ahead and use Nightcrawler. It's not the same, but at least it gives the same mechanic to the Angela piece that you're probably looking for anywho. It's a really, really complicated deck. It's not a simple, you know, just play the card down, call it a day. Here's your 3-card combo that wins. There's a lot of moving pieces, literally, that you have to keep track of and project with proper percentages. And it's a difficult deck to run, but when you know it clearly, I mean, as Lambie did, he knew it well enough to take everybody in his path down.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those decks. It's not a beginner deck. It's not a, hey, I've played move a little bit deck. But I would say
no.
Yeah, I would say play it, you know, 4 or 5 times, start to see what the lines are, because to your point, there's so many lines. And with the fact that, and again, when we originally kind of reviewed Silk when she dropped, she seemed okay. And I still think that she's specific for certain decks, and this is the deck. This is one of those things where she's bouncing, but you can kind of predict where she's bouncing for a lot of the plays. Definitely there's going to be some times where, oh, she went to a lane you didn't necessarily want her to go in, but for the most part, you can move her around, and I like the deck. It's got a lot of low-cost cards that can help you out, and you've got a lot of a turn 6, and I think that that's what makes this deck so crazy to combat, is because you have cards like Captain Marvel. So at the end of game, she's going to move to potentially steal away some of these wins. You've got this whole thing of turn 6, play 2 cards so they can't predict where the Silk may end up, right? You've got Spider-Man to where they think they may have a lane locked up, and all of a sudden you move something out. Angela can go really, really big, not just with Kitty Pryde, but throwing, you know, Spider-Man into her because he's going to trigger her, but then move. You've got Silk that does the same thing. Jeff, Vision. You've got a lot of cards where you can actually make Angela almost win lanes by herself, you know, or her +1 card, and be able to move that Vision somewhere like you mentioned, right? So it's not a beginner's deck. But the more you play it, the more you'll get comfortable with it to see those lines, and it will take some time to just understand, what those lines specifically look at. But it did take down the whole tournament. We had a couple move decks that showed up kind of in that top 8, top 16. And we had a lot of Darkhawk decks that didn't quite make it as far as we thought, because we had 30% of the meta actually being the Darkhawk deck, the Darkhawk good stuff deck coming into the tournament. But yeah, we had a lot of these move decks, taking it down, really, really beating the Darkhawk decks.
Yeah. So. Yeah, the Darkhawk deck is still overall one of the top performing decks in the game. In this specific tournament, it could not keep up with the slow progressive ramping that was happening from multiple different aspects of Angela mechanics. We saw the Craven mechanics. Yeah. I mean, we had a Sauron deck do well, so you've got your Shuri combo in other different decks too. Like, it's just, it was really cool to see the diversity in this specific meta over the course of the entire weekend. But to me, the most overall standout card is still Legion, because his prominence is very apparent, borderline worrisome, but not there yet. Yeah. In the tournament scene, it's an incredibly powerful and present card. The rest of the game, it's still a powerful card, but it's not as present. Yeah. So I'm watching his play specifically in tournaments, and I'm curious to see how it gets assessed by second dinner.
Yeah.
I think they determine him to be toxic or not, because if so, it's because of tournaments. And then that speaks volumes to what they understand.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what they do with him, because I do feel like he is a card, right? If you mess with his cost or whatever, right? Whatever you do with him. But I'm curious if it also, in their design space, hurts them with how they want to do locations. Because if you think about it, there's a lot of lockdown locations. So think of like the Vault. We saw that happen a couple times where him coming down on Vault sealed the game. There's the Storm. Of course, there's the Storm combo that you can see coming. But, if they don't know you have Legion, there's a lot of these bar with no name. I've seen a lot of games, one where you kind of pretend to play into lanes, and then all of a sudden, boom, bar with no name, I win. So there's definitely, those types of locations that he's auto win on. And I'm just curious, how that affects what we'll see in locations in the upcoming future months as well. And if there's just certain things they're not able to do because of them, and again, another one of those throwing out there is like Rickety Bridge, right? Like we've seen it a lot with some stolen wins with him. And I think right now he's fallen into that really good tech card area. He's not to the level of Shang-Chi, but that's because he's a 5. And I think if you bring him down, and that's the risk, right? You can't bring him down, because if you bring him down to a 4 below, he ends up in every deck. You can't put him as a 6, because then he's just too late to do a lot of stuff, right? So I think right now the 5 is probably where he is, and the only thing they can potentially do is mess with power. And I don't know. Well, I think he's fine for now. But to your point, we'll have to see what he does.
He's fine
in tournaments, conquests, things like that over, the next couple months. But he's a fun card. He's a fun and interesting card.
He's fine as is for now. Just keep an eye on it. That's all. I don't think I'm not calling for the nerf hammer on him, because I think he's absolutely fine. And if you run him, you run him. You don't. That's up to you. But if you're running him, you better have the right mechanics also to run him properly, which is early game ramping versus a turn 6 play. Yeah. That's the only thing I would give more caution to with him.
Absolutely.
Because he's stellar.
Yeah. So definitely all those decks and things like that can be found on snap.fan. Just go over to the tournaments area. You can see all the previous tournaments, the decks that were in there, the records, all that kind of stuff. To see if you want to test them out. But if you have Silk, definitely give it a try. If you don't have Silk, hey, X23 is coming out this week, and she's in a spotlight. So if you're interested in playing, it is a good week to take a look at that and use some caches potentially, because now your misses will be a little less hurtful. If you don't have Silk, if you don't have Nebula, like you mentioned earlier, you can definitely check that out. But tournament scene, healthy. Can't wait to have our tournament next week with SnapCon all in person. Going to see how that goes with the help of Rallycry. So big shout out to Rallycry, who's going to be helping us on the back end using their platform at SnapCon. So interested to see how smooth that goes. Again, love all the different platforms out there. Everybody uses what they like, and I'm glad to see we've got another one kind of popping into, popping into the meta, the environment, to give their shot at being, maybe the new go-to. So we'll see. We're going to be hanging out with them. So yeah,
I think it's safe to say that between all of the changes that are happening in Marvel Snap, whether it be the new cards that are coming out, the little tweaks that they're making with the OTAs, we see the health of the competitive scene from a tournament or Conquest Avenue. There are other big events coming down the pipeline for Marvel Snap. Big news for Marvel Snap in all different ways, because once again, whatever news happens over the next few days, we can't cover on a podcast. So stay tuned, because we'll probably do our next one actually live together in person in Florida, which is exciting as all hell. But when that day, comes, we will make sure that we give you, as always, our open, honest, unhinged, truthful opinion about whatever the hell is happening in Marvel Snap. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for hanging out with us here on the Snap Back podcast, where you snap and we snap back. Default Dan, do me a favor. Say goodbye to all the lovely people.
Y'all take it easy, and we'll see some of y'all next week.
We're going to a SnapCon, we're going to a SnapCon, we're going to a SnapCon, we're gonna get screwed up, we're going to a SnapCon. Sorry. I mean, at least I know Super Tech God is, so, it happens.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun, man. I can't wait.